What's up, fam? Welcome back to the Steep Stuff Podcast. I'm your host, James Lariello, and today I am so excited to bring you guys an episode with Kyle Richardson. Kyle is somebody who I've deeply admired for a very long time, and one of the people I looked up to and have looked up to since I got into the sport. Kyle's also someone who I had planned to have a conversation with since I first started the podcast. It was someone I had in mind. Kyle is a deeply authentic human and someone incredibly different in the sense that he kind of made his pathway in the sport and became a professional athlete in a very non-traditional way. Not super big into the racing scene. He kind of just focused on his craft, on various up, down, and different link-up FKTs that he kind of broke his name into, starting with Long's Peak as well as the LA Freeway, amongst many others. This episode kind of picks off where kind of him and Finn left off a few years ago. We picked up on what Kyle's been up to over the last year or two. He's kind of on a new pathway now, which was something we dove deeply into and talked about. And we also talked about some plans for the future, and which I'm super excited for with Kyle. He's definitely got some big plans, and it's exciting to see him morph and grow into his next pathway of his journey. So, guys, I hope you enjoy this one. I have to say I know I say this every time, but this is one of my favorite episodes, if not my favorite. Kyle is a special human, and from these episodes, I always take a little something away from each person, and Kyle's is about individuality and authenticity. Two things he definitely is. So hope you enjoy this one. Without further ado, none other than Kyle Richardson.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
People, Earth, listen up. The Steep Stuff Podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Direction USA. I am so excited to be partnering with Ultimate Direction in 2025 as the official hydration solutions partner for the Steep Stuff Podcast. Lots of fun things coming down the pike for this year. Ultimate Direction is going to be unveiling a brand new race and ultra vest that's going to be dropping in the next couple of months. So excited to bring that to you guys. If you are in the market right now for apparel, for a belt, for a new pack, anything hydration solutions related, flasks, you name it, they've got it. They've got you covered. If you hop on to ultimatedirection.com and use code STEEPSTUFFPOD, that's one word, STEEP, STEEP, STUFF, STUFF, POD. If you hop on to ultimatedirection.com and use that code, that's going to get you 25% off your cart. Especially that we're starting to wind our way a little bit more closer to spring. You guys are going to be start to put together your race calendars, and Ultimate Direction's going to have you guys covered. So whatever you need, they've got you outfitted from head almost to toe. They don't do shoes yet. So guys, enjoy yourself. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much, and check out Ultimate Direction. Kyle Richardson, welcome to the Steep Stuff Podcast. How are you, man?
Yo, James, thanks for having me. I'm good. It snowed a couple inches last night. We already had like a good little base going. So yeah, kind of just been enjoying winter, and it's kind of a proper little winter day. So things are great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's a busy week, so happy to kind of turn things down now and start to put the focus. But I do a lot of my running during the week, treadmill and on the roads. And then I start to like tamper back onto the trails over the weekends when I start to do stuff on the incline and stuff like that. So excited to get back on the trails. Just had a nice run a little bit ago. Just perfect amount of powder for a fast, for like a little bit of speed, not too much powder. It was like perfect. So yeah, man, it's a good day. Excited to be chatting. Dude, like I said before we started talking, have been one of the most requested people to come on the podcast. When I first came into the sport, even though I'm like probably a good 5 years older than you, like you were somebody I continue to look up to and have looked up to when I first entered the sport. So it's cool to be chatting, man. It's a little surreal. It's a little weird.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. No, really appreciate it. I was just thinking when you were talking about the incline, I was like, in winter when that gets kind of packed down, I bet it's so nice. I would love to go run there in winter.
Dude, you'd love it. And especially like with all your fast times up green, like it's a good opportunity to rip. Like I do Saturdays, I do a lot of like more specific trail workouts. I'll do a lot of up downs, like to the first and second bailout.
Nice.
And I love it, man. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it gets a little icy, but like with good traction, it's not that bad. But yeah, 10 out of 10 recommend. Yeah.
You ever like rip downhill on it? Like go down all the whole incline?
You know what, dude? Not the entire thing. I've like figured out the first, like to the like off the second bailout and the first, but like I don't know. It's like that full steep section. Like I get like kind of weird on it. It's like almost too vertical. So you start to like, I don't know, second guess yourself in the footing a little bit. But one of these days I'd like to like rip a full up down. It's funny. A while ago I used to be like more of like just loving the uphill more, but I don't know, as I've started practicing the downhill stuff more, I'm starting to enjoy that and finding some love of that. So yeah, well, no, I don't know. Have you, what have you been up to, man? Like, I know, like I said, before we got into the podcast, I was listening to some 21, 22 stuff with you and Finn. And yeah, I'm just curious to see what you've been up to over the last few months. And I saw you in the East Coast doing stuff, and like, what's new these days?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back to maybe those years when I was talking to Finn. I mean, I feel like the in-between years since then and catching up to now is like I've dealt with some injuries over those years. So they've kind of been like a little like, oh, am I going to be able to go do something? It kind of depends on like, oh, where's my fitness going to be? Just like I'd get injured at like summer, like it's hard to exactly pinpoint because it's like I'm thinking more about like where I am now. But in the last few months, I've just been trying to be super consistent on the running front. I would say it's probably been the most consistent sort of mileage and just running that I've ever done, which has been pretty awesome. I feel like really good, like my legs going out for just a standard hour and a half run. Like I'm like, oh, you kind of just reach that point sometimes when the legs are underneath you, you feel solid, like you can count on running. And I think the key with that is like not getting greedy with it and not overdoing it. And so in the past, like these injuries I was just talking about, you're like, oh, you go do stuff just because you can and because you love to do it. And sometimes that gets you into trouble. You do too much, or you just stack some big adventures back to back and then you don't recover and you go run. Oh, you have a little hip thing. So I sort of injured my right hip a few years back, and that kind of just has taken a little bit to kind of unwind. And then I tore a little bit of my quad last year, and that kind of like took out a chunk of my season. But when I say take a chunk out, I'm still able to bike and kind of do other things and get outside. So that's like super nice. I'm grateful that even like when you're dealing with some injuries, you can find ways to like keep that fire alive or just like get to enjoy nature. But yeah, recently it's like I've kind of fixed all of that, like really like just focused on running, like form, efficiency, all that stuff. Not too much, but in a way that's going to be like productive for you to like not keep getting injured and yeah, just grow and kind of evolve. So it's like a really good feeling that running has been like consistent and I'm able to like count on it, because in years past you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to bike or kind of have to like switch it up all the time, and that never allows you to like really kind of sharpen your craft. Like you kind of just like you do too much and you're like, oh shit, like I need to be smarter, I need to so
I feel you on that, dude. It's that delicate dance. Like some weeks, like you said, it's not getting too greedy, because like there'll be the weeks where you feel sore as shit and you're like, I don't want to get out the door, but I know I have to. And then there are days and like sometimes weeks where you just feel amazing. And you're like, how far do I push this? And what do I do with that? It's an interesting dance, if you will.
And I don't have a coach, and like I basically just go off feel. And sometimes like the passion and the joy for like getting outside or spending a long day, like you got to like tamper that down, or at least like plan your year out where you're not doing that in the winter so that when summer comes along, you can like have a little bit of a progression. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, I think I said you get too greedy with it. Yeah, it's kind of like you love it so much, but it's not something you can abuse. Yeah, it's kind of funny when you think about it like that.
Is it easy for you to be motivated in winter?
My motivation is like, that's not ever been a problem for me. And it's like every day I'm so psyched to get outside in basically any capacity, whatever my body will allow. And I think, it's like not, yeah, I just love to do it so much that it's not really a motivation thing. It's like I have to tap into different areas of my life. I need to make sure that I'm doing all the other things right so that I like give myself the opportunity to get out the door, like otherwise it's like, oh, like, should this be the priority right now? You have all this other stuff going on. Like you need to, yeah, make sure you're doing all the other life stuff. That way it's like you can get out for the run and it's like you're not going out there to like de-stress. You've already taken care of business. You're out there because it's like I really, really want to experience what this day holds on the mountain, maybe the certain weather. Like when it's really gnarly, I love to be out there. Like I love that so much. You brought up the East Coast at the beginning and
Yeah.
there's this summit there and it's like it gets way gnarlier there, Mount Monadnock, than anywhere that I've really experienced here in Colorado. That's like a peak that's you can go do it as a run. Like it's not an all day epic. I mean, it's technical, but it's not like going up a 14er. It's like just a slightly smaller mountain, but still gives you that punch that a big mountain would have. So one of the summits I did, it was like, I don't know, like negative 30 or 40 wind chill. And it's like to have the opportunity to go see what that's like and like have the skill set to know that you're going to be okay. You can kind of lean into the conditions and that like once you kind of enter that realm, I feel like the experience a little more raw. It's like a little bit maybe more to learn from the experience because you've kind of opened yourself up to it, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. I don't know if you're similar, but do you ever get like captivated by location? Like, so the East Coast, the reason I asked about the East Coast was because like, I don't know, like I get fascinated by different locations. And like I grew up on the East Coast, like I have family there. My wife's family lives in upstate New York. So
Oh,
like
nice.
we spend a good amount of time between there, like, and we'll do a lot of Vermont, New Hampshire this summer. And I don't know why, man, but like that location is, I don't know, captivating. It's interesting. The mountains are very different. The payoff is different when you get to the top. But there's just something about them that I find like very, very fun and very interesting, very technical. Yeah, it's a cool set of peaks, whether you're in the whites or the greens.
No, I mean, yeah, you said it perfectly. Something about a place that has such a different feel than what you're used to. So like in Colorado, it's like front range running. It has a very distinct flavor. I mean, even where you are, it's like the gravel, the granite. It's like, oh, you know that you're in the Springs area if you're like doing this type of running. And it's something about the East Coast and like New England maybe, and I bet yeah, in the Adirondacks and the Catskills and stuff, it's like it's such a distinct flavor that you really like are like, oh wow, this is a lot different. And there's a charm to it. It's like the architecture, the small town like general stores. It's just not the West. It's
Yeah,
crazy. I
it's
mean,
so
it's like
different.
duh. It's older. I don't know. It's probably obvious, but I don't know. When you're running, it definitely is like strikes you pretty hard.
Yeah, it's funny too. Like the technicality is astonishing. Like, and I guess like maybe I'm spoiled. Like we're spoiled because like Colorado. I mean, yeah, green is like there's like a lot of sections of green that's pretty technical. Like there's not a ton of. I'd say there's more technicality in Boulder than you get in the Springs. Like Springs is carpet more or less. Like there's some technical peaks,
Yeah.
but like yeah, dude, like it's on another level in the East Coast. Like it is so. Just you have to just like be engaged. I'd say engaging is probably the best word for it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of like if I've done any carpet path running. I mean, you have the dirt roads for that. That's
Yeah.
basically what that area is. And I'm like the trails that I've been on that are my favorites. It's like it's hard for me to describe to people even in Boulder like how technical just in the way that the terrain is like so undulating. Like it's rare to have like I mean you have like walls and like steep climbs, but it's gonna have some other like punches it throws at you. It's like really like types of terrain and features that are unexpected, like weird rock outcroppings, like you're doing like legit little scrambles up little boulder problems. And you're like, this is where the like they even mark it. So like with blazes or whatever, and you're like, huh, this is like the best way. And the best way is like a cool little rock feature, like, or like all the terrain is eroded and it's revealed this like thick slab. So it's like the terrain is, it's hard to read and it's really unique. I mean, I haven't really put my finger on it totally. I'm still psyched to go out there and explore. And yeah, it's crazy. I think you, yeah, said it perfectly. It's just, it's so, it grabs your attention. You cannot just chill.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I don't. It's interesting, man. I don't know. I'm the type of person, as it sounds like you are too. Like like you look for the adventure and everything you can find, and it's like that. That is one of the places where I just think it's slept on. Like it's interesting. So yeah, I can't wait
yeah,
to go back.
totally.
Hopefully this summer. Well, dude, I want to backtrack a little bit. Obviously, you're probably one of the most famous people I've ever had on the podcast. So many people know who you are.
Yeah, I don't know
But
about that.
let's backtrack a little bit. Let's talk about your story, man. Like let's talk about growing up in Texas, how you found running, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, where to start? I guess I like the how I found running. I think that's a good place to start. And in Austin, Texas, just outside the downtown area, like near Lake Travis, I feel like that's kind of a familiar landmark. So like my dad is a big runner, still runs. He's probably the obvious person to point to as like, oh, this is how it started because that's where I first actually saw running. Like, oh, I saw this person going out for a run, tying his shoes. So that gets into your mind. And then my brother was doing cross country like through middle school, so I was like seeing the like the racing and competitive side of running, and I kind of dabbled in track and field in middle school, but it was like nothing I really ever trained. I can't remember like training for it. It was just like, oh, and when you're in middle school, you just kind of like get fit and then you just do the sports, you know? Like I did soccer, I was just doing other stuff. I was also in band, so I was like that was consuming a lot of time. And I feel like you just tried to do as much as you could, and like that kind of like gave you some fitness, or you just kind of stayed active. There was never time to chill. So that was definitely like seeing running. Okay, running's a thing. I'm wearing Nikes, doing the Nike Plus thing like before Strava, where you're like uploading your runs, so you could like see your route. There was like trails behind my house where I grew up, and kind of just like naturally gravitated towards that because running pavement, it just feels hotter in this, like when you're in Austin, it's like you want some tree coverage. Even the trails are super technical. I just kind of like the roads were unpleasant, loud, hot, like the footing is just pounding. I don't know. Something pretty early on like deterred me from wanting to do that. And like just the fun of exploring trails and like just getting out there, like, oh, I can go do this from home. It's probably some aspects of like freedom at that age. You can just go do something. Um, but then in high school, I like pursued music full time, was in band and marching band and jazz band and all this stuff. And it's like I didn't have time to really do anything else other than that. It was like crazy to think about getting up early for rehearsals, staying late. It was like totally unreasonable workload. Like I don't honestly know how I got through it. And I have always held myself to a really high standard, and I like wanted to be the best that I could be. Like, oh, I have to practice more than you. I have to spend more. Just like with your peers, it becomes like a competition. You want to like not like outdo them, but you just like if you try your best, then everyone's gonna try their best. It's like running with someone that's faster than you, or like a group that's like, oh, they got it, and I need to bring my A game. It's like everyone kind of goes up together, which is like the cool thing of when you like are friends with everyone and you're like homies. Like it's like you can create a really good atmosphere and like get really good at something. So like when I was on the drum line, we were like, oh, like we're gonna try to win and win the competitions, but that was like all consuming. There was no time to run. Although I guess for summer conditioning, the band directors would have us run like 2 miles around the concrete like marching field, which is heinous.
It's cool,
Like,
actually.
yeah, like because they were into running too, and they still are, and they do marathons and stuff. So they're like, oh, if they run, like it's just going to be a good way to get them fit. Because like when you're carrying a drum around for 13 minutes on the field, like you need to be able to have some endurance. So I probably gained like a decent base fitness just from that before I even started like training. Summers like carrying the drum all day sessions where you're just like, I mean, yeah, it was intense, like athletic endeavor, at least for that part of the year for sure. But then in the spring, when not during football season, it's like the practices, the competitions, the recitals, the solo, it's just crazy. So, but then college, moving to Boulder for school at CU, and I was like on music scholarship, pursuing a music degree. I was like saw the mountains and had like free time to actually go explore and practice and do music at the same time. So I was like, oh, this is the best of both worlds. And just yeah, completely fell in love with like the repetition of running, like doing something every day, like not necessarily chasing any goals at that point early on or fitness because I was like couldn't even like run up green. I'd like be hiking, I'd complete noob in the sport, like everyone has a place where they started, I was like that seeing the people run around here, I was like I don't even associate with those people because we're not even I'm like out for a hike and you guys are, like athletes or like, who knows what you want to call it. But so that was kind of like an interesting start for me. It was just falling in love with Boulder and the mountains, and then kind of at the same time, like picking up more into the sport in terms of like the characters, like brands, races, like kind of all like happened at a interesting moment. Whereas like running right in before that moment was purely like a just a thing that I knew about growing up seeing my dad run. It was like sort of the innocence of running all the way up until moving to Boulder. I was like, oh damn, like this is a whole nother sport. It's a whole nother thing. This is like as much time that you've put into like perfecting percussion and studying percussion, like people do that with like running in the mountains. And it's like, oh, like I wonder. I saw that progression with music is like you can learn something and get really good at it. It's like, what if I just like did the same thing with running? What, just have a daily routine of the practice, and then
Repetition.
it may take a decade, but you'll get really good at something.
Dude, you got good really fast though. Like really, really fast. It felt like that period of time from like 2018 through 2022. I mean, you can obviously paint the color for this because it's your experience, but like I feel like that time from 2018 to 2022, you set the FKT on longs, set the FKT on the LA freeway, Green Mountain, the descent, and the round trip. Like you did so much in the sport. Like you blew up. Like what was
Thanks.
that experience like? Because I felt like you're on at that point you're on every podcast. All these brands are knocking down your door. You're friends with all these. You start to become friends with all these like huge people in the sport. Like, how did your life change in that? Like, what was that one pivotal moment like where your life changed?
It's a good question. It might take a sec to unpack, but I feel like I still haven't really like had that moment where like, oh, my life has changed. It's funny. I'm like thinking about that. I mean, obviously it has, and like my career has been altered because of things that I've done. Um, but now I like think back on that, and maybe we should talk about this at the end. Is like where am I now?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I feel like I have some interesting reflection. But it was kind of like I'm relating this back to music. So you're practicing, you're like are out of like grade school, and now you're in college, and it's like it's totally on you. It's like no one's helping you, no one's holding your hand. Whereas before, everyone's like, oh, you miss a couple notes, or you drop your stick, or I don't know, like you get in trouble or something. Someone's going to be there to kind of like, okay, this is how the processes are going to help you along, and like, oh, it's okay that you messed up. In college, like the pressure to perform at such a high level, you just like you felt it. And I was super, super grateful to have the professor that I had, Dr. Doug Walter, um, because he made it 100% about the music. Like you needed to have technique and all that stuff was discussed, but it's like you need to put yourself into the music. Like you need to add emotion. It's an art. Yeah, you need to inject your creativity into it. So it was like that was at such the forefront that before every performance, that was like you can go out and just regurgitate a piece of music that you learned, but it's like doesn't have any feeling to it. To really like add feeling and dynamics and all this stuff, it's like another level. And I was like thinking about that with running, and what it takes to get to that point of like you've kind of practiced so much that you can now sort of improvise or add more color. So like you can, oh, go scramble up this rock or this ridge. It's like more of a, you're painting a picture. It's like just a little bit more nuanced, a little more creative in the way that you think about it. Obviously, when you look at it on paper, it's like, oh, he went up Green Mountain or he went up this, did that. It's like, at least my thought process behind it, it's like much more coming from like an art place. And I feel like I just focused on that. And over time, yeah, I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to run fast now and just see like kind of where that gets you. I don't know, the whole like blowing up thing. It's funny because I'm 29 and I feel like I haven't even like scraped the surface. And I feel like I had at least a lot of things that I want to do, like setting myself to a really high standard. It's like, it may not even be possible. Like I probably will fail doing some of this stuff, but it's like adding some longevity. It's like, this might not happen in 2 or 3 years. And I think that was a big growing moment for me, was after like the LA freeway or these other things that I said, or longs, or it's like, it took a decade to get to this point. Like it could take another decade to get to maybe where you want to be. And so be okay with where that's going to take you, and don't rush. Like, since you did this, that's going to lead you to this, and then you're going to do this. And it's like, you can't predict. I could have never predicted like, oh, he's gonna, one of my proudest achievements is probably the quinfecta, the 5 Flatiron link up in Boulder. You go up like the second and the first and the third, then the fifth, then the fourth Flatiron, and run back down to Chautauqua. And it's like, that was the culmination of like so many different skill sets, like physically, mentally, creatively, like figuring out different links, adding little different routes, just taking everything that I've learned and be like, how like proficient can you do this? And it's like, yeah, that's one of the only times that I'd be like, I would like want to see someone come try to break that time, because it's like, that was like my finest work, my finest composition in terms of like, what, I mean, you can't fuck up when you're doing that kind of stuff. Like, it's too consequential, but it's like, there is a little bit of art to, like, you can do it, or you can do it at this level, So I know that was like a rambly way of like talking and answering your question. I'm not sure I even answered it, but
that's beautiful. I think it was a beautiful answer, and I appreciate you being so candid. Just the only reason I bring it up is because, like, dude, like, you were really young when you like popped onto the scene, and that's why like a lot of these guys you see in the sport, guys and gals, like, you see people deep into their 40s now, and you're 29. Like, you have an entire career ahead of you.
Yeah.
Based on like doing whatever you want. So like it's kind of cool. I don't know, like, and I've done all those things so young. It just makes it's interesting, dude.
No, I mean, I would I have to add this because it would be like, I'd be embarrassed if I didn't, like, all the people in the community, like their standard, their like strive for excellence, the way that they carry themselves, like definitely bled into like kind of what I do, like the Satan's minions, just different people in the community that you're like, oh, like, these are really cool people doing cool stuff. I want to like go see what they have to do and hang out and get to know them, like learn from them, people that were like much more proficient at running or just generally being outside than me. And 2 of my oldest friends, like Cordis Hall and Jack Daly, like I learned so much from them, because they were like, I would say they were deep into the sport when I met them. And so like all the races, all the people, all the trails, all the link ups and stuff, like they knew it all. And so they showed me pretty much everything that a lot that I know now. I could definitely, a lot of the runs we did in college, like waking up early, going up green, Flatirons, just Indian Peaks, all over. It's like, I did some of those first runs that then led to bigger like runs for FKTs and stuff, started like with them, just like going out for a run,
Yeah. No, dude. I got a Boulder question for you, just because like I have a lot of friends in the Boulder area. There's just so many athletes. It's the Boulder bubble, dude. It's rich with every competitive athlete you could possibly think of. And the other thing is not funny, but interesting is like, you're very active on Strava. Like, you're always putting photos up. Like, you're putting up pretty much a lot of stuff. Do you ever feel like pressure? Is that like a pain in the ass to feel like everybody's looking at my Strava all the time? No, I feel like
I
it
mean,
depends on how you look at it. Like, cause I would hate that. That would drive me crazy.
it's like I started Strava so long ago, and I remember like my dad showing me, and like I said, doing the Nike Plus thing. Like, so I was just like always uploading my runs from middle school. Like, so it. No, I've never really been worried about that. I mean, I don't have anything to hide, so it's like
Yeah.
look at my, if anything, I'd be like cool to see people like, oh, he did this route. I'm gonna go check it out. Like, keep it open so people can see what I'm doing, or like have questions, or they have questions about gear. I get that stuff all the time, and it's as someone that was like, when you're sponsored by brands and like what I don't know, it's good to be like you're a public. I'm not trying to really be a public figure, but when you are,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's kind of like what you signed up for. Like, don't play the game if you want. Like, I mean, I have friends that keep their Strava private. I have like feelings about like what my buddy Jack. He's like, I'm like, just post it. Like,
Is Jack Kensel? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
I get it. I actually see more. I think I get where he comes from more than I think I don't know. It depends
yeah,
from like
no,
a
no.
public
I
figure.
I think it's okay. Like either way. Like honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just funny to me that I don't know. No one's gonna like dislike you or like you more whether you have like I'm gonna be like, oh, Jack is doing this cool stuff. Like I'm not really looking at the numbers or like I'm like I want to see the photos and the write up. What were the conditions like? Like I guess I'm thinking more about that versus like if you want to hide everything else. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But I just feel like I'm missing out on like stories or little things that I could catch on to, and I like there are people that are really, like Tony, like in Boulder here, Anton Krupicka, like he does a good job with his Strava. Like he's always posting photos and like an interesting write up.
Yeah.
My friend Danny Gilbert does the same thing, and it's like I like seeing that stuff, and I don't care. Like I'm not like, oh, like he did it this fast or this fast. It's like if they really care about that stuff, you just write it in the description and I'll read it. So it's like if it, yeah, and I'll just take that for face value and just at the end of, I'm trying to spend less time on my phone anyway, so it's like that's where I'm coming from, but I 100% respect and think it's totally fine to keep it private and understand like people like Killian, like I understand the whole like I get it. I guess he's posting more, but I could see both ways. But I personally think it's cool to share what you're doing. That's why you're on the platform to begin with.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, and like your stuff has always been so good. Like your stories are always awesome. Like these, especially in the winter, like these beautiful like winter backgrounds with the flat irons and stuff.
Yeah.
Damn, you're a good photographer, man. Like, what? Let me ask you this: what do you shoot on? Because like, is it just an iPhone?
iPhone.
Oh, you just have a really good eye then, and you're just like really naturally good at this. Then, because like, dude, I could try to do the same thing with my iPhone, and I can't get anything nearly as good.
I mean, I like doing that a lot. I think I don't own like a big camera or like a fancy camera, yeah, just the iPhone, but I like composition and like finding different perspectives and like being able to capture that with the phone. And like I don't carry a tripod or anything. I just like kind of prop the phone up on a like nature has so much to offer. You just like if it doesn't have something to offer to like prop the phone up, then maybe it's not worth taking the photo. It's like I don't spend. I mean, it's definitely an art, and like I kind of want to write like a little piece about like how to take the Strava photo as like a little joke or something where it's like here's a few little tips to like help with composition or whatever. Not like any phone, any gadget, like it doesn't matter what you have. Um, just kind of seeing like, oh, like the tree right here would make a sick shot. And I always like this perspective. Like I'm gonna stop real quick and take a photo. So that's kind of my thought process behind that.
Yeah, that's
It's like
cool.
pretty, yeah, low key with the moment. Sometimes I'm stopping, like just see what capture a little beauty, and then be able to share it later.
When it comes to sharing things, one of the things or one of the slogans I've heard you say a lot, and on podcasts, on Instagram, is the term rhythm and motion. Can you
Mm.
talk a little bit about that and like what that means to you?
Yeah, it just means like while you're running, there's this motion going on, and it's rhythmic. And if you kind of think about that, your heartbeat, your footsteps, your breath, the birds, the wind, and the tree limbs making noises. It's like there's a orchestra out there, and you can kind of like tune into that. And I think that the focus of that and kind of thinking about that allows you to kind of tap into this space where you're not thinking about too much. You're sort of no stress. You're just kind of like light on your feet. You're kind of, I don't know, just in a positive mindset and sort of space to kind of go about the run. Whereas like maybe, oh, it's muddy out, or it's I'm not feeling good, these shoes suck, or like this other little like things that sometimes can like bug you during a run, or like the distractions, thinking about like the rhythm and just your surroundings, or like nature. I mean, it can be more broad than just like an actual rhythm, but like, yeah, what is nature doing? Think about that. Think about how cool it is to be there, and that kind of like the run will be over in like a before you know it, you'll like blink and be like, oh damn, like that was some runs just feel effortless and like quick. You're just like you got back in no time, but it was still like your kind of standard time it would take. And I think kind of just being a little more open with your mindset. I think like technology, different things can bog you down trying to get out the door and bother you on the run or something. So I don't know. It's kind of like dorky music, nerdy kind of things going on, but that's just, yeah, kind of what I like.
I love it, man. Dude, you are, I have talked to a lot of people, well over 100 at this point on the podcast, and I have never met another person, and this is a compliment. I have never met another person that looks at the way you view running from such an artistic approach is just so interesting to me. Just because like I don't know, like your standard person you meet is like everything's about competition, right? Your standard like sub ultra athlete, or ultra runner, whatever. Everybody is thinking on the competition perspective. You are a very interesting mix of like incorporating art, and then you have this like solid FKT background and all these things that you have accomplished. Like I'm just so curious, like where does competition fit into this? Because I know you haven't raced too much. You've raced a few times last year. And the only reason I bring this up is because I had someone bring this up to me when I was doing a race preview last year for Sky Race Day Math Sin. Your name popped up. And I was
yeah.
Kyle Richardson is on that start list. I was like, holy shit, is he gonna be racing the Sky Racing series?
Dude, yeah, I mean, it was the goal of the year, but I got injured, and just like it's so much travel and like commitment that it's like I'm not gonna go over there when I'm hurt. Like it's just silly. Like I know when it's like not gonna be, and I like knew like a month out or something that I was like, nah, this is not happening. I mean, I'm just not one of those people that will like give up everything to get to the start line. I guess maybe I'm just more secure with what I'm doing and like my projects and ideas that I just, yeah. But at the same time, there's like a half dozen number of races that I would love to do. And I would like, yeah, if I could get into like Zagama or one of these, just some, yeah, sky races over there. And like this year, like that would be so sick. So, I mean, it just comes and goes. And like I'm 29, so I'm not I don't feel the pressure that I need to go do it right now, but it's like if I could right now, like yeah, sure. I just like I don't think this year it's gonna happen for me. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna say no yet. Probably definitely not Zagama, but you know, I know that next year, like I have some years to kind of like try to do that stuff. I don't want to rush it, and I also like just it's not the focus for me right now. So I don't know. It's like, yeah, that's kind of like a lame answer, I feel like, because
No,
I'd
no,
be like,
no. I
oh,
think it's
I'm
interesting.
doing this, and this, and it's like, yeah. But the way that I'm running now is giving me like confidence that at least the stuff that I want to do this year, and like hopefully moving forward, if I just kind of like go, listen to what I said on this podcast at the very beginning, about injuries and that stuff, and being smart and applying that all the years to come, then I'll be great. But that's not how life works. So something probably will get in the way, but that's okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, competition, it's like the FKTs have been a pretty cool outlet for that stuff. I mean, I love competing against myself. So while it's cool to see like, oh, like I'm faster than these people on the Strava leaderboard, I know what I'm capable of. I know like on a good day what my legs can do. And so in some ways that's like all the motivation I need to like go at least try. Um, in the last 2 years I just like haven't been healthy enough to try. But that's this year is like I got good feelings. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'd like to do some racing. I'm like warming more up to the idea. I'm sure in the podcast with Finn I was like, oh, I never. But there are some like Mount Marathon, like I said, Zagama, the skyrunning circuit. Like there's these races that I just want to do at least once, like just to do them. Like, and I know that I like will do well at them. I'm not saying I'm gonna win or anything like that. I was just like, oh, I'll put down a respectable time and like be happy that I did it. If I have a good day or whatnot. But so
Yeah. No, dude, and listen, like you're world class, man. So to
thanks.
see you come on and like race some stuff like that's why I bring it up, is because I remember being astounded when I saw that last year. I was like, huh, I like, not only do I have to have him on the podcast, but like this is a conversation to talk about. And I had shout out to Nick Tusa, who's he's in the Boulder scene, who like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
idolizes you as well as many others. But like one of the things that like I asked him like, do you have a question for Kyle? And that was one of the ones that came up. So yeah,
Oh,
man,
nice.
it's yeah, it's just interesting to me. Like Sky Race Day Matheson is a sick race, so that's like one of the ones that like I'd love to see you go
Yeah,
do.
yeah, it was like that, and I was like really excited about Kima, which Jack did really well at, and I feel like that those kind of courses, just like as
Super
gnarly as you
technical.
can have a race, like sign me up, you know.
Yeah. So one of the things we started in the beginning of the conversation was about your background, where you were. I think now is a good time to maybe talk about like, you would kind of allude to this, like where you're going, where you want to
Mm.
go, things like that. Is that anything you want to talk about for that?
Oh yeah, no, that good. Yeah, I mean, I feel like my at least life and work has looked a little different. Like in end of November, I actually stopped working with BD, so I'm like not sponsored. I'm not working with any brands at the moment. So it's kind of interesting. I feel like I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I was actually like writing a little piece about this, trying to like just get some thoughts out and like looking back at my time with like BD and Sportiva and these different brands I was working with. I was with BD for 7 years, which is felt like a long time. Yeah, like what all that was like what have you learned, where are you now, kind of just, I don't know, going back and just seeing what that whole timeline was like, the process of graduating college and like pretty much, yeah, going pro, like having, yeah, getting paid to, yeah, run, which is kind of wild. And I feel like that is interesting to think back on, and then also think back at like the music work that I was doing and still doing now, like at the same time, but seeing like, oh, like how much was I devoting to like being a professional athlete versus like all the things that I'm pursuing now, like or music, percussion, performing. You know, if you have so much time in the day, like is it all and working or whatever, trying to make money, if we just want to put it simply, is like, are you spending all of it like doing BD stuff? And yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of rambling about it because I still haven't really processed at least exactly how I feel about the situation, but it is refreshing and like exciting to like not be working with any brands, like it's I can like I'm working with a little bit kind of on the side, sort of trying to do more like maybe full time with like a coffee company, Idle Hands Roasting. So like getting into sales and like tasting coffees and working on quality control and just like learning a lot. I've always been like a huge coffee connoisseur, and it's like, yeah, just picking something else up, seeing where that will take you, but then still trying to run at a really high level. And it's like I'm training and running the same, like with BD or not. Obviously financially it's looked a little bit different, and I'm like trying to find work more at the moment too. It's like I really respect and kind of idolize people that aren't sponsored, that are like at the top of their game, or like just pursuing running at a really high level, where it's like, I don't know, it's just it's refreshing to like see people that are like not doing it how you were doing it, at least the last decade or whatnot. So that's exciting. I feel like there's a lot of new doors open for me. Um, but at the same time, like, am I going to have the time to pursue like the projects and stuff I want to do? Like that's just the reality, and that's something you have to like kind of figure out along the way. It's so, yeah. I feel like I still have more to kind of think about, and so yeah, if anyone else is like interested and want to hear more, hopefully I've written a piece soon that like kind of dives into it more. But it's like, yeah, it's pretty recent, so it's kind of like, oh, like, yeah, what is my lifestyle? What is it going to look like? And I'm like 29. Do I still want to reach out to brands and play the game? Because like it's a game that you're playing to work with these brands. Like they support you, and like some are better than others, but it's like you're not getting paid like what you'd be getting paid if you were like a different role at that company. Like if
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
all of those people have earned their position for a reason. I'm just saying it's like you're not getting like you're barely scraping by. Like
yeah.
even if you have a good contract, and there's only a few people that I know that I have like, and they've rightfully earned it, but they're like legends, like
Mhm.
we're not on the same playing field, at least I haven't reached where they're at. So it's like, is it worth it to keep like just begging for pennies and stuff from brands that sort of may support you in some ways or like not? And that's like, no, I'm not throwing shade at any company that I've worked with. Like I did some crazy, crazy cool stuff with BD, the Tempo films, all that stuff. And maybe I'll do more of that with a brand moving forward. It's unknown to me. And it's like, I don't know if that's even a possible career path to do the art and the creativity stuff that we were discussing before without like a golden ticket or like this or that, which
Yeah, yeah.
even people that have those still are having a hard time getting sponsored and making money in the sport. So I
Dude,
know people that like that
sorry.
deserve solid contracts that aren't getting them. So
Yeah, dude, I think you nailed it. I think there's so much. And first of all, thank you for being candid and being open about
yeah, of
it. I mean,
course.
I was going to wait till after the episode to like, once we stopped recording to actually
Mm,
ask you, just
mm.
to, see, I don't know, just to kind of probe and see and just
I'm an
talk to you
open
about
book.
it. But no, first of all, I appreciate you being so candid about it. And I think there's a lot of thoughts here. And the one thing I will definitely say is like, I think from a professional athlete perspective, like you don't strike me at all as someone that like I need this. Like I get my self-worth from this. Like you
Mm,
strike me as someone who's like, well, I have these incredible goals and things I want to do, and a sponsor obviously monetarily helps open those doors and get me to those places so I can do those things, right? Like I meet a lot of people, and like there's a strong degree, and it's kind of upsetting, like to see a lot of how many people like get their self-worth from something like that. And it's
mm,
like,
mm.
no, you shouldn't draw self-worth from at all from a sponsor, because there's a hell of a lot less people sponsored, than there are runners. But anyway,
Totally.
the other thought on that is like, it's an interesting perspective too, because it's like, do you want to pursue, the only difference there is like, if you have gigantic goals, it helps to help you get those goals. But like
Hmm.
this year is a crazy one from a budget perspective, dude. I talked to so many friggin' people that like don't have contracts because everybody either overspent on their budget or the budgets have tightened because sales aren't as good. I don't know. It's kind of it's a crazy thing. It's a weird position in the sport right now. It's very strange.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100% agree. I think I'm just gonna get to the point, and this may hopefully not take too long, but like take some months or years where I'm just doing other stuff and then I can afford to pursue my running dreams at the highest level. I mean, I can still do that here in Boulder, but getting to the races, getting to do that, and like however that looks like, and there's plenty of people that do it. It's like, yeah. So that may take some time, but I think it's definitely doable. Which is cool. I think like that's a fun challenge, and also like not having to be attached to like one brand specifically. And again, like I'm still open to like a future relationship with the brand. It seems unlikely at this point. It's like it may be a few years, or like just the way that the market and like how brands are operating. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't, even if I go set like the Grand Teton FKT this summer, I'd be shocked and surprised if someone was like, "Oh, we're gonna give you 100K now." It's like no one cares. It's like it's a cool thing, but like I don't. That's mixing up like, yeah, like you said, the self-worth and like sort of the business stuff. I don't know. It just feels like that's not really going to be the model moving forward unless you're like a Courtney or a Jim or a
Jim.
Killian.
Yeah.
Like those people deserve it and they're at a different level. But it's like the everyday person, or like I don't know, not everyday person, but you know what I mean. It's like I'm just another guy, that has some fast times.
I don't know, dude. Like there, and the reason I don't disagree with you. I think you're 100% right. But like when it comes to like self-worth and yourself, and this is obviously that we could do a whole nother podcast on this, but like I just read
Mm,
something about like how many billions were flowing into the sport in the last like year. Like it is, and I'm sure people that you're around in your circle will tell you how many billions of dollars like are in the sport and how much money the brands make. I'm a big advocate of athletes getting paid. Like it drives me crazy to hear like people scraping by on pennies and not being able to do what they want to do and get to make and go to these places. Yes, that helps. But like, dude, even like, and this isn't, I don't want to give too much inside baseball, but like you can attest to this. Like even getting paid by a brand, like, dude, sometimes it's a little slow. Like it's not exactly an easy thing. Like, and it takes time. So like,
it's never on time.
yeah, it takes a lot of, and this is like, I'm not shitting on brands. Like listen, I'm an athlete. Like not saying anything negative. It's just that like, I think the system needs to be reformed. I think there's a lot of things that like they need to fix. Like one is like the whole contract employee thing. Like why can't we just like even if someone's on a contract for a year, make them a W-2 employee for a year so they can get healthcare. Like there's a lot of like little things
Yeah. I
that
mean,
like
honestly, when you were like, I'm not shitting on the brands, it's like I'm just being honest. Like every
yeah,
brand that I've worked with basically doesn't pay on time. I mean
yeah,
that
that's
I mean
exactly
like,
how
oh, you
I've
look at the
experienced
fine print and it's like, oh, it's like it has to be by this date. It's just to the athlete, it's really unclear, and maybe I just need to do more like due diligence before in the contracts and stuff, but still like even talking with managers and all, like it's never clear. It's never like, you always feel as the athlete that you're kind of like, like you're like kind of like having to ask or like email or kind of like not beg, but just be like, you don't feel like it's yours,
yeah,
like you feel
or
like you're
reach out to
having
the
to,
AP team.
yeah, you're having to like ask for it. And it doesn't like, it feels like a weird exchange where it's like, you don't really feel like an employee. I mean, yeah, you're not on the W-2, so, but you feel like you're also giving a lot and you're doing a lot, and it's hard to quantify what exactly that is like. And I'm going to see this from the brand's perspective. It's like what value, and I could analyze myself. It's like what value do you bring to the brand? Why should they pay you? um and I feel like that is an interesting question, because maybe you're like, I don't deserve to be paid because I'm not. It just depends. Like for me, I feel like I bring a lot of expertise, at least when it comes to like designing gears that are really designed for doing stuff in the mountains. So, like, and that's like a lot of my work with BD is like product testing and really honing in on like what's the perfect piece for X, Y, or Z, or this objective or this, like, and really getting down to like the details. Like we can make a good puffy jacket or like this or that, but it's, yeah, how do we make an innovative new product? It's like that's, my brain's always thinking about that stuff. And I think I mentioned like, yeah, like a non-traditional athlete role with a brand, and that's kind of what I had with BD is like, yeah, these people, they perform at a really high level. They're doing cutting edge stuff, but it's like I have a small following on Instagram. Like I'm not like really selling a ton of gear. I mean, I get a lot of questions about that stuff, but it's probably not that much. But I have lots of really good ideas in terms of like how to make the best mountain running gear. And like, you want to talk to me about that? We should talk, because that's where brands are really going to excel. Everyone's trying to make the same stuff and it's like not that great. The fit's off. Like it's not, yeah, it's not designed like with the top tier athletes or someone's mind that's like thinking about this stuff. Like a lot of athletes, they don't really care about like a ton of input or like the stuff just works, or that's just not their gig. I mean, their gig is like winning Western, or they're doing
Yeah, yeah.
crazy like other goals. I feel like I was always like pretty goal oriented with like products and like different innovative stuff. And I wasn't like the key person like designing all of it, but I was definitely trying to help from the athlete um side of things. And that's a lot of testing. Like it always frustrated me when like we'd get a product and like never have enough time to test it the right way. It's like I need to run in this thing like 100 times before we can talk about the durability. It's like I can't take it out on one run and be like, oh, it's broken. And sometimes that would happen, or like it's a process, and it's like to really like nail down like great gear. It doesn't happen overnight. And I feel like it's pretty easy to kind of just gloss over the whole athlete testing, product design, research, all that stuff, and just kind of like other people at the office are doing it, the designers themselves are doing it, but sometimes those people aren't runners. They're like outdoor people, but they're not like, yeah, they're just not super specific for what the task is. And if you come at it from the angle of being an expert, it's like you can really get it right, you
Yeah.
know? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
so rare to get like road running's better at this because I don't know, like just shorts and that kind of stuff seem to fit better. But like, yeah, a lot of like the mountain brands, like yeah, it's even Patagonia, it's like I still find stuff that bugs me like, wearing
It
the
doesn't
packs and
fit
stuff. I'm like,
correctly.
oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could make this better. Like, yeah, just yeah, really try to optimize that. So I always think about like gear and like geeking out on that stuff and like optimizing for weight and durability, but like what's the lightest that you can go but still be, I mean, that's like nerdy and and maybe not marketable to a ton of people, but I think there is a space. Like people are spending money on shirts that have moss that have eaten through the shirt. It's like, come on, people will spend on a nice like running pack, you know, like the BD Distance 8, like it's a great pack, like little things on that really make it work, you know. It's like, I don't know, that kind of stuff gets me like pretty amped.
Dude, the distance line. I had so much like faith in it. I was so like, dude, all right, first of all, the what is that amazing, is it the distance shirt? What the hell is the name of that shirt that you guys had? The super light New Yarn shirt that you guys
Mm,
had. Yeah.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Um like, dude, that was so dialed. That's still to this day my favorite running shirt.
Mm,
Like I have like 5 of them.
yeah,
But
no, they're super nice.
there was a lot of things in that distance line that you guys had that I was so stoked on, and then I feel like they kind of like pulled back on it, and there's like wasn't, they took like, I don't know, like last year kind of like died out, and now I've seen some like new things here and there pop up on the site, but not as much. It's, I don't know, I just feel like maybe they've pulled back, and I don't want to speak for them, but
Mm.
like maybe they've pulled back from trail running in a way, which is kind of just disappointing, just because I think that like at one point in time, like had they like put the right investment into it, like, dude, they could have been bigger than Arc'teryx, like from a running perspective. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, shit.
It's so true.
I don't want to talk like I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
just the truth, though. So like, I'm not hate. Yeah, that is. Yeah, you said it really well. I mean, it's yeah, it's a bummer, and it's like hard to work in that environment. And like at the end of the day, it's a business, and it's just for money. It's like
Yep. Yep.
they're all the reasons those changes happen is because oh, we need to tighten the budget, and it's like it's just difficult. And sometimes you have people that have to make the cuts that don't like know too much about running or how integral a piece of like an ice axe loop or something like that is critical to the kit that it's like yeah, I don't know, it just gets kind of, that's one of the reasons why I'm psyched not to be um working with any brands right now, but I
Gotta
feel like
take a
that's
break.
probably a reality at a lot of brands is just kind of the way it works. It's like a tug and pull, like trying to, the athlete wants this, the market we think wants this, we'll meet somewhere in the middle, hopefully the product lands.
Yeah, yeah, dude, and then they have to meet their certain SKUs and the
Yeah.
ordering. It's crazy. It's an interesting. I don't think I like, and I don't know. The average person listening to this probably has like no idea the way it works, and it's like so not the way people think it works. Like people think that there's like a product and then like that product serves a need, but no, it's much different than that.
It's funny, like comparing that to art, and like I was just thinking about filmmaking and like thinking about tempo and all this stuff, and how it's there's such a joy and like a joy to the freedom of collaborating and not feeling like what you want to do is gonna get like ruined. You know, like if you have an idea and you're with your friends, you're like, we're gonna make this, we're gonna stay true to this, we're gonna ride it all the way out, and have a brand like BD support it and not mess with it and not change it. Um, is rare. So like thinking about like how awesome that is and like the freedom and just to be able to, I don't know, create something that isn't altered, like coming up with, we're gonna do this film where it's running like the rhythm and motion. Let's explore that. What does that look like on a screen? It's like drumming and running at the same time. Like when you're out running, you decide to like head off onto like a little different trail or like a social trail or go up a ridge or something. It's like more on the yeah, on the fly. You're improvising. there's a freedom to that, and that's so nice and refreshing. And sometimes corporate, like business, it kind of like it doesn't really want that. Like it doesn't seem like that, even though there is success when you really like ride it out, but like the initial thought is to go against that, is to not really express yourself and like kind of like push the edges. It's like, oh, you have to conform, do it this way, and like
Yeah.
kind of we have to fit the campaign and have the logos in the right spot. Whereas like, what if we just think of a dope idea and go do it, and then if it works, then it works. I was talking to my friend Brennan, and we always like remind each other that it's like you have to do the craft and what you love to do first, and then we'll see what happens if someone picks it up. Don't create something in mind trying to please a brand, or like I'm gonna go shoot this photo because I know that this brand's gonna like these photos. It's like, no, go take the photo that you want to take when you're out running and you see this shot, it like lines up and you're like, that is the photo. Like I've been the last couple of weeks, like I knew I was waiting for the conditions to line up and I knew it was that. And it's like, do that, and then no matter what, like I think you'll just be happier at the end of the day. And I think I'm like trying to hold on to this thought. Someone will see it. Someone will recognize that and like add value to it, or like see the value that you have to give in that aspect. And like maybe that's a brand sponsoring you and you have a good relationship, or maybe it's like you write an article for like the New York Times and they're paying, like you just find like a weird relationship that it's like you can still do what you want to do and no one's like altering it. You can live out the full vision of the project or the idea or the run or the adventure. Um,
It's
and I feel
authenticity.
like, yeah, exactly. That's like the to sum it up in one word.
Yeah. No, dude, you nailed it. Like, and maybe you can speak to this more. And I guess I have been dying. I ask this question a lot to people because we live in a world, and this is not to poo poo on social media as much as it sounds like it's coming across. But like you had mentioned in the beginning of the episode, you're like, I'm trying to stay more off my phone. Dude, I do the same thing. Like, I find myself, especially for the podcast or if it's for sponsors or for whatever, I'm on my Instagram entirely like way more hours of the day than I want to be. In a world that you notice, like where you see a lot of people trying to be someone else, I find it very refreshing to talk to someone like you. You are one authentic human, dude. Like you are. I have not met too many people
Thanks.
like you. Like you're an interesting, cool character. So
Ah,
like
thanks, man.
how do you stay true to yourself? Like, cause I'm sure like you, especially as a professional athlete, it's a pain in the ass, dude. Like you have brands telling you to do one thing and wanting you to fit, like you said, fit this campaign or help with this and that, but also maintaining your, like, for instance, like you don't race that much, you have your art, you have your FKTs, and that's the way you do things. And when you do them to an extremely high level, but you're not like everybody else. Like, has it been difficult trying to stay true to who you are over the years?
Um, I mean, there's been moments where it's like, you're come to a point where you kind of have to like ask yourself that, but it's never been like I've never been too lost in terms of like what that looks like. I feel like how I got into the sport from a really young age and then just progressing through moving to college here, it's like everything just like kind of happened in such a natural way that I never had to question that. It's like I was running around here. I think like I did the LA freeway, which is in my backyard, not hard to get to, and like then BD was like pretty psyched to bring me onto the team, and it's like that didn't feel forced. I was gonna do the LA freeway regardless of. I wasn't at that point looking to like work with any brands. I was unsponsored. Like, I definitely knew that if I was gonna do stuff like that, that opportunity could maybe come, but that wasn't like what was motivating me to get out there. And so I've always just kind of like held that pretty close. So I don't think I've ever really had to think about that. I think when it comes down to like the thing that's making me think more about that, I guess, is like, can you fast track the spot that you're in now to like go race the gamma or like go do what I was telling, like some of the things I was talking about? Like, is there a way to like I'm thinking about those things in my head. It'd be easy for me to be like, I'm gonna do anything to make these happen now. And I'm gonna work with any brand that reaches out. Basically, I'm gonna reach out to every brand and be like, who wants to sign me? Like, I don't know, just like work the game in a way where it's doesn't feel authentic, but I know it will get me to like Zagama, but who knows what will happen if I try to do that. Like I feel like that's a kind of a dangerous game,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. It's like I kind of have to like if running and my projects have to take a back seat right now, like that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it is right now, but I'm very open to the idea that it could, and I'm like taking that pretty serious and like pursuing other stuff, other work opportunities. And yeah, and seeing like, oh, can I also maintain, like I said, maintain the running and like stuff I want to do outside. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to take off weeks to go bike packing, like link up peaks. I hope so. Like, I really hope that I can like, it's something I'm working on every day is to like, yeah, be able to do the things that I want to do. It's just, I can't predict, and I don't want it to, I feel like that kind of like puts pressure
Yeah.
to kind of like sell my soul or like do something, yeah, that just isn't authentic. Like, I kind of need to, I have these skills and I know that I can make money doing them. It's just like I need to like get back to like the practice room and just like really perfect what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that looks like running, that's music, that's like coffee now, that's hopefully some other opportunities that I'm kind of got in the works. But yeah, it's kind of different than what in the Finn podcast where I'm like sponsored. I'm planning trips, I'm planning races and stuff, and it's like that mindset is just different, and you don't have the stress or like the other work stuff to think about.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably like a lot of people, it's like pretty normal for that to happen. So
Yeah.
um
It's
yeah.
interesting, man. Your perspective is unique. And one thing I will say as well is that not to pivot hard, but just something I was kind of a note I was thinking about is that like we are in like this new place, right? Where there are athletes that like are more adventure based athletes on the FKT side, like your Chris Fishers of the world, your Aaron Tons of the world. I finally got her last name right. Like there are athletes that are able to make it like in the FKT space. As far as like making a full time living, like I just talked to Chris yesterday. Like he was very candid about like the fact that it's not easy, and like he has like huge goals in the Himalaya that he wants to tackle, and like his family has to help him like to get him to that level that he wants to get to. Like it's fucking hard, dude. But like it seems like there are more possibilities opening up for for those athletes that are more adventure based. But like, dude, you're also interesting because like you have the like world-class talent, not saying that they don't, but like you have this like world-class ability to be able to also race at a high level should you want to. Like you could go to the Skyrunning series and place like easily. I don't know
I
where I'm
mean, shit,
going
the
with this,
one
but
the one race that I did, I got walloped. I did not have a good day. Like, and that's still was when I did the Tromso Sky race. I got destroyed and
that was
like,
years ago though. That was a long time
yeah,
ago.
no, I know, but still, like, I was like, nah, I could have done way better. It's still a mystery to me. Like, I had the worst cramping I've ever had in my life, and like, never had that issue since. And it was like, it was a freak thing that I've never experienced, and it was like such a bummer. Like, I'm not saying I would have. I think I could have podiumed on if I had felt good. Like, I don't think I was going to beat John Albin, but still, like, I just that it's days like that where you're just like, like racing sucks. Like,
Yeah, it's hard.
I mean, it's so cool because it forced me to be present and like deal with the cramps and just get through the race. Like I traveled to Norway for the first time. I wasn't gonna drop out. Like it was a 50K, but it's like still it like uh, something about FKTs is just it's a little like I just keep harping on the art and the creativity part. It just like it allows a little bit more, I don't know, nuance and expression there. Whereas like racing, it's like very like this is the course, these are your competitors, like and that's cool that it's distilled to that. Like they're just different. And I like I said, I do want to do more of the like racing, just kind of like respect to just show up, even like who knows, like even if you don't have a good day, it's like you got to the start line and showed up. There's like some big respect that goes along with just doing that because you can easily tap out and just be like, oh, I'm injured, I'm not feeling it, or just like I'm not fit enough. Like there's some insecurity. Like feel like showing up to the start lines, like you're secure in your abilities and like what you're capable of, and like whether that's finishing or just PRing or whatnot, it's like you're showing up that day, and that's like takes a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's an interesting dichotomy. So I've been dying to ask you the question because you
Mm.
were the one, you said it. You said the grand.
Oh, fun.
I heard rumblings years back that you were considering going for that record,
I
and
mean,
you
it's
are one of the few
iconic.
people that could do it.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. The Longs record, I was like, never. It took like a decade for me to wrap my head around Andy Anderson's time. So I've gone up the Grand a few times, and yeah, that's gonna be pretty hard to beat. But I think just going up there to give a fast time or going up there to spend more time, it's a yeah, beautiful place, and it's kind of like the perfect mix of like, technical, a little bit of scrambling, exposure, like that stuff is yeah, I feel like I could run fast, but there's some yeah, fast times. But yeah, that's been on the bucket list for like a couple years now, but like yeah, just injuries and stuff. And Andy Anderson set, I forget how old he was when he set that record, but like on longs, he was like 38 or something, so like
Just time.
we ran up the longs a couple years ago, and he helped give me like really good perspective on like longevity and like just the ebbs and flows of like running and what that looks like later in life. And like, yeah, so I try not to like get ahead of myself or force it. Like I want to go and like spend some time and then like do it and then yeah, kind of move on to the next thing. It's not something yeah, I don't want to like go up there and come back. It's just not going to be the same thing I had with long, so I could just do it a bunch and like really intimately learn it. I don't live there. It's like yeah, some peaks yeah, you just can maybe spend a little bit of time and then just kind of give it an effort and just see what happens. I feel like that's pretty cool. Versus like a something that you really, really know well. I'm not going to know every step of the Grand. I'm just going to be honest because I'm not going to spend enough time that it takes to do that. Whereas like Long's Peak, I went up it enough where I was like very much aware of like every step.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Michelino said he had like names for his rocks on the ground. Like he was like
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so
Yeah,
freaking dialed with it.
yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
That's a great, yeah, exactly.
Well, dude, let's start winding down now. I am so curious to see who inspires you.
Oof, I have a lot of people that inspire me. I mean, first right off the top of my head is definitely my partner Abby. She's a total inspiration, and she runs at such a high level and also works a full-time job and is like, yeah, she's at her office right now working. It's like she has her work ethic is like through the roof, and like she definitely brings me up to a higher standard in terms of like productivity, like doing everything that you can, doing more than that you should, like taking on more projects, like just doing as much as you can and like maximizing every minute of the day. Like she does that so well. Like
She's a huge part of the trail running community too. Like she's
yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, so she's totally immersed in the sport and like all aspects or what with her job at outside. And it's like I'm like I got to set my game up, like I don't want to say I'm slacking, but I'm like I definitely need to step my game up just in terms of like maximizing every minute. Like you can run at a high level, you can train as much as you want. You'll hurt yourself before you run out of time to train and pursue like a career and like other life goals, other crafts like the music, photography, all this other stuff, and still have time to like watch TV at the end of the night, Like just yeah, being productive. And that's like I find super inspiring. And she's like super self-motivated, independent. Like yeah, that's definitely every day. It's like just like have Abby just like she's the standard of like this like just put in good work, like do your best, like even if you have some challenges, just kind of like lean into it. It's okay, and like you're gonna be able to. It's okay. You're gonna go to bed at night, and it's like things shouldn't be easy. You shouldn't be just like coasting. Um, like you need challenges to like push you, and so like it's easy at least with the athlete role. Oh, I'm recovering. I'm doing like I'm taking all day to like I don't know. I mean, I've definitely done that in the past, and but like now I'm like I'm trying to grind and like hustle and yeah, really like put my best forth every day. And it's like she's doing that with like no one's telling her to do that. She's just is like super driven. But then like my family inspires me. Like their different careers, and I have a twin brother and a younger sister, and just like even my parents, it's like that's inspiring. Like everyone, just to think about like when we're catching up, or like what they're doing at work, or like just yeah, they're everyone's like
Dude,
trying to do their best.
your brother lives in Durango, right?
Yep.
I think my wedding photographer, Colt Fetters, is good friends with him. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, cool. Like small world.
yeah.
But yeah, no, he's like Matthew's a great runner too, and it's like he's not sponsored. He's never been sponsored, and it's like I don't know. It's like in some ways the best performances I think I've ever had. It's like I don't know. I've just kind of like been at peace or like cared the least, if that makes sense. Like I'm just like doing it because I love it so much. I'm not wrapped up in like a number or an FKT or like, oh, this is gonna get me to a job or something. It's like you're just like, oh, so psyched to go give it a hard effort up the peak, you know? Sometimes like that's all it takes. You just have a good day. I mean, that's like the Longs FKT. It was kind of the last opportunity of the season, and it's like, okay, like you kind of like force yourself to go today. It's like, I mean, what if you don't get it? It's still a sick day in the mountains. Like you're gonna be a PR regardless. So kind of like try to keep that in mind, and just like the inspirations that I mentioned, just like keep those remind, like think of those every day. Like don't lose sight of that. And that's like I'm motivated to like yeah figure out this next kind of chapter in my life. So hopefully maybe you'll see me on a start line. I
Oh,
was
dude.
thinking I was gonna tell you because you're down in the region, but I was like,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you'll feel about this, but I was kind of like scheming up like a solo Pikes round trip effort.
Yes. Yes. Do it.
Um Probably with support just because I think I mean it's pretty long to be unsupported. Not that like I just want to solo shred. I don't want to do the race. I want to pick a good day,
Okay.
good condies, and like give it a solid rip and just so I have a time. Like it's such a historic classic awesome peak. And like the race, I like the one time I signed up for the race, it got like shortened to bar camp, and
Oh, I
I don't
didn't
want to
know
do the
that. I knew you did like the Garden to Peak challenge, but I didn't know it was the
yeah.
shortened version. Damn.
So, but I had to do the qualifiers to get in because I don't even know how that works anymore. But it's like I don't want to have to do those to run the race. Like I don't know. I just like don't even want to.
I
Maybe
mean, if
one
you
day
want to
I'll
run the
do it.
race, I can get you an elite bib. I'm on the board, so
Uh,
whatever you need, let me know.
that's how I prefaced. I was like, I don't, but there's something I've always thought about doing it like the solo shred, like.
Yeah.
And I've never done a proper round trip. Like I've been at Pikes a few times, like the backside, and I don't know. So there's just something appealing about that to me. And I don't know. Maybe you can convince me to do the race, but
Oh man,
some
I think the race is cool, and this is no shade to the race, but like, dude, I have long thought about this, like, and you could, I just find it so interesting, like, because the funny thing about it is like, obviously you're not going for, I mean, you could go for the FKT, but like, that's Matt Carpenter's
yeah, no.
I
I
know
mean,
it's a
I just want
ghost,
to
but
throw down a good time, like a respectable time that like in the race would have been like I just like who knows? It's kind of like how I went into longs, like shit on a good day, like or set like at least rip a fast round trip,
yeah,
like
yeah.
or get a good downhill time. Just like have a great day out there. Um,
Dude, if you decide to do it, let me
yeah,
know. If you want to do it supported, like I'll be out there on course and
hell yeah.
I'll hook you up, man. Whatever you need, that would be. Yeah, I think you should seriously think about it because that would be, especially like depending on where you're at in the summer, like a nice September, August day, like especially September, it gets a
Mm,
little crowded there because everybody's training for the race. But like, really, people are only like it's only bothersome up to like through the W's, and then after that, it's not too bad. Like you
yeah.
could rip a solid one or a nice July day, dude. Oh man, like some of my best memories are up there, especially when the storms roll in. Like once you get
Mm.
below tree line and like the storms start rolling in the afternoon, like such a I don't know iconic place, beautiful peak.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna have some pressure because I threw it out into the world, but I'm not like I have no delusion
There's
that
no
like yeah
pressure. Yeah.
the record, but it's like more of the just like the art of doing it at such an iconic venue, and it's like yeah okay you didn't do it in the race, but it's like I don't know. I think there's something cool about not doing it in the race.
Yeah.
So even if it is like an impressive time, it's like I don't know. There's a beauty to that, and I think I don't even know how many people have like if that's ever. I mean, obviously people have done that, but it's like not something that I feel like a lot of people would probably focus on. Like they're gonna do the race because that's like the normal person thing to do.
Right. Right. No, dude, I think it's more noble to do it your way, like or to do it in just a solo effort just to see what
Yeah,
happens and be like, well, because you could, throw down a really solid time. And it's just like one of those things that are just like that fall into lore. And it's like, well,
exactly. Yeah,
because you got to remember in a race, it's, this, it's different because you either have
yeah,
a rabbit to chase to pull you up the mountain
yeah.
or, or someone pushing you on the way down. It's different when it's pretty much by yourself and you have to find your own will to will yourself
See,
up.
I feel like that's where I thrive, is like that space where it's like just me, just pushing versus like, yeah, trying to fend someone off or chase. Like I love that too, but it's different when you're like, I mean, noble is I guess a good way to put it, but yeah, it's like you just like it's just a solo, like it's all on you. It's something like honorable, like I don't know. It's like it's funny to think about it. It's like you're just a little grittier, a little like you want it to be harder because you want more of a challenge. I don't know. It's like kind of a fun way to, and that's like longs, all this stuff. Most of my most impressive times, it's all been solo, so I'm just used to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, man. Definitely think about it. And like if you start like starting to seriously the project it, let me know. I guess, dude, I would even like to film it a little bit if you'd let me. Like it would be kind of cool for the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, definitely gonna like run up and down it a few times this summer. Hopefully, like also, yeah, just spend time up high and then yeah, on a chat with you about like a good look at the forecast and like good temps, like not too hot in town there, and just like try to rip a fast lap. It'd be super sick to have you out there.
Yeah, man. For
Maybe
sure.
hand me a little bottle or two.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
We got you. We got you. Steep Stuff Podcast.
Yeah.
We'll do it all. I'm so curious to see on a day like that, or before longs, or before you're getting ready for a hard effort. Like, as a music guy, like, what are you listening to? Like, what's your? I'm sure you probably don't have a go-to song. I'm sure you listen to a ton of music, but like, what is the song?
I don't know. I feel like I listened to, yeah, like you knew me. I mean, I listened to hip hop, like reggae, rock and roll, all, I mean, shit. I could warm up to like some Wilco like live tapes. That could get me pretty amped. Like if good guitar solo comes on, or it's like a nice beat. I don't know. Kendrick comes on. I don't know. It could literally be a lot of different things. Or it's lately, I've been listening to like samba. So like there's a couple really, really, really good like samba albums that have really nice tempo, that the percussion's just really constant and dance like, and that just is like gets me in the mood to like jam up and down the peak. But yeah, it kind of like looks different. And then like certainly before I'm like try to tune all that out and just like I don't know, zone out a little bit before starting, like kind of like really relax and like do some deep breathing and kind of like clear the mind a bit, and then just like go. Because I feel like as soon as you start running, then it's just like the blood starts pumping too fast to even like think. It's just like you're so focused.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I don't. It's funny, dude. Like, I listen to a ton of music too, so it's like I don't know. I can never just point to one thing. There's so much. All right, dude. I gotta ask you a goofy question, just because I ask everybody this. It's either an AI or a Bigfoot or like an aliens question.
All right, let's go.
All right. So, what's your take? What's your take on the aliens, man? Like, are you a believer? Do you believe in them? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth. I feel like I want to believe that there's the galaxies is like the universe is too big. Like we can't even wrap our heads around it. Like surely there has to be some other life forms out there. As far as like the traditional alien that like with the gray head and the little body type of thing, I don't know if that exists, but like you hear like different abduction stories, and like people can paint such a vivid picture of what happened, but it's like I can paint pretty vivid like memories of like dreams and stuff. So it's, I don't know. I'm undecided. I need like more data.
Okay. All right. Well, one last question, and I've been dying to ask you this one. When it's all said and done, when you're like, I don't want to run anymore, I don't even want to look at a mountain again, which is hard for me.
That's not gonna happen.
If you haven't accomplished it yet, what is like one thing that you want to do before this is all over?
Like
like when you go to sleep,
athletic endeavor type of thing.
Athletic endeavor, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, shit, we could do a whole pod on the stuff that I want to do.
Is there one that like trumps him? Like it's like the one or no?
I mean, I'd like to do some like bigger, like peak bike link up type of thing, like some big, like multi-week adventure. I mean, I have a lot of those types of objectives that I want to do. So I guess if I had to do just one, like I would just make a massive, like, I don't know, all link up all the 14ers in the lower 48 or like something crazy that was like a huge type of thing. I would maybe like distill that down to like doing the Colorado 14ers. So I have like lots of projects like that, like linking up peaks in different areas. And those like rise pretty high to my list just because those like you could hold on to the memories of that for like a lifetime, whereas like a little FKT is like such a blip. So I'd like, if I want to do this one last soul shred, like go out for a couple weeks and just kind of like be out there unattached to, yeah, your cell phone and just kind of like be roaming nature. I feel like I'd have to pick that because that's like how I got started, is just being immersed in the natural landscape. So yeah, it's probably something like that, some big like bike packing link up that involves running. Like it could be peaks, it could be like there's some stuff in Scotland that I want to go do. That would probably make the list pretty high. Like do the Highland Trail 550, but like do all these different like peaks along, I guess, fells and along the way, and yeah, something like that, I would say.
It's a good one, man. That's amazing. Well, Kyle Richardson, it has been an absolute like honor, dude. It's been a super like a pleasure. I can't wait to do part 2. We'll do part 2 in person. Looking forward to the future. The future's bright. Thank you for coming on. And yeah, man, have a great rest of your afternoon.
Yeah, no, thanks James for chatting. That was a great combo, and yeah, looking forward to round 2.
Thanks, man. What'd you guys think? Oh man, what a great episode. I want to thank Kyle so much for coming on to let me help tell his story. Obviously there was some great conversation, or I mean, the whole thing was a great conversation, but obviously there was some harder conversation in there with talking about sponsors, and just conversation around some of the real stuff in life. Not everything as a professional athlete is sunshine and roses. There's a lot that goes into it, especially in the business aspect of it. And I think it's important for those of you listening to this that are aspiring professional athletes or people that are just interested, to gain Kyle's perspective and understand his journey and where he's come from. I think it means a lot. Kyle's a fucking real one, man. I have to say it. Like, I have met very few people like him. In the way he approaches the sport is just very different, just truly artistic, truly creative, just different. And, his story is amazing. And I'm just so excited. One, for round 2, the next conversation we have, and where his journey takes him, because that's someone that is definitely going places in life. So super cool conversation. Before you guys get going, give Kyle a follow, hop on Instagram. You can find him at Kyle Richardson. It's also going to be linked in the show notes below, so you can find it there as well. Very last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review. I can't stress that enough. The more 5-star rating and reviews that we get on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, the more we can get this out to the world and help to continue to tell these amazing stories of these athletes doing incredible things. It also helps with potential future plans. We do have a lot of plans to continue to grow this podcast and cover more of the sport in 2025. And when I say that, I mean, we are going to be going to a lot of big sub ultra races this year. We're going to be covering them. We're going to be doing pre-race podcast, race reviews, pre-race interviews, post-race interviews, the whole 9. We're going to be doing some serious coverage this year. So I can't do that without your guys' help and support. And that would mean the world to me. Very, very last but not least, if you happen to be in the market for a new vest, waist belt, handheld, you name it, anything hydration solutions oriented, check out Ultimate Direction. They have you covered. Guys, in March of this year, so in the next few weeks, we are going to be dropping with Ultimate Direction 2 new vests, the new race vest and a new ultra vest I've kind of hinted at in the past. I probably shouldn't be giving too much information away, but you guys should be so stoked for these. Definitely game changers. Going to change the entire way things are looked at. Truly innovative products in the space that I think you guys are going to love. So hop on ultimatedirection.com. Those are going to be available, and you can get 25% off your cart using code SteepStuffPod. Check those out. Let me know what you guys think. And we're going to have a big announcement coming. I think I'm going to announce it next week. We've got reels. We've got all kinds of stuff coming out for our 1-year anniversary. That's going to be really exciting. And yeah, life is great. So many good things here. So thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your weekend.